Hello. This week I'm stepping away from Normandy for a while because I've had a few requests here and there from friends of the channel to have a look again at some Far East jungle terrain. Now, not so long back I did do a video of some little terrain pieces, so I don't really want to dwell on exactly the same thing, but it's obviously going to have a similar basis. So what I've got here is a selection of the materials that I got through Temu, you know, the cheap, I think it's Chinese site that you can order bits and bobs from. And I got a lot of, like fake plants and aquatic plastic plants for your aquarium and things like that. And basically, and I got some bamboo from them as well. And I got a few other bits, but I'll show you them later. But what I'm going to do first is I'm just breaking down some of these pieces into smaller items so I can make up some plants. I won't make that part of the video because obviously it'll be too long otherwise, but I will capture what I'm doing in photographs because I want to get to the main scenery bit first. Right, so essentially what I've done is I've just cut off some of the tips, smaller parts of the plants, and I'm not wasting anything because I can take the leaves off other parts, and then I'm just squirting a little bit of glue gun down and sticking the little tips into it to create smaller plants. And then while it's still wet, I mix a bit of a soil base into it so it won't show up on the final piece. So I've made quite a few different ones. I've also utilised the leaves, as you can see on these, the bits that I've left on the cut-off. And I've ended up with quite a variety of plants, that I can mix in. And I'm just going to give them a coat of soft tone wash to take away that plastic look. Right, so while we're waiting for the plants that I've made to dry, I've been cutting some bases out for some of the jungle terrain that we're going to build. And all I've done is just basically chamfered off the edge to make it, easy to touch, and so it matches in with the game table really. Now what I've got to do now is add a little bit of blue foam to it, because I want something that I'll be able to stick the plants into as well. But obviously I need to make that look natural as well. But first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick some pieces of offcut that I've got, that I've cut roughly to shape. I'm going to stick these on. I'm going to wait for them to dry, and then I shall chamfer them as well and make them look more natural. And that's going to give me something to stick things like the bamboo into as well. But obviously we'll take it down a little bit from this, and then ultimately, it'll follow the contour of the base. So all I'm going to use for this, I'm going to use this tacky glue. You can use strong PVA, anything like that really. And then just stick it on the board. It doesn't matter if it's not the exact shape, because it's all going to make it look more fluid, because there's no straight edges in nature. So right, so that's the first one. So I'm just going to do this to the rest of them, and when they're done I'll bring you back. So while we're waiting for those things to dry, I thought I could show you some of these other little bits that I've picked up from Temu, and they literally were just pence, and they're quite impressive. Because what I thought I could do is build a bit of an abandoned, little prayer area or Buddhist temple type thing. Not going to involve very much. I'm just going to put these lions on one of them. I'm afraid the other one, I haven't got no more lions, so that'll just have to have the Buddha figure. But it's like a stone resin. And to be honest, there's not really a lot I need to add to that. Paint-wise, it is pretty much how I wanted it to look. So there's not much work there. I mean, maybe, when I'm actually weathering it at the end, I could perhaps put some green wash here and there just to make it look like it's, mossing up, or, you get that green, don't you, growing up on stone. And then these gates, which all I have done on these ones, because these were a bit more of a garish colour, I've just sprayed them grey for now, and then I'll work on them when they're in place. So I'll just show you what I was thinking. I've just cut a piece of foam, this offcut, and how I thought of laying it out would be stick it to the big bases. I'd put that on there, a lion on each corner, and then the Buddha figure sat at the back. I mean, whether to put him on a bit of a plinth or not, I'm not sure yet. But that's the kind of thing I was thinking. So, and then obviously what I'll need to do, if I'm going to do that, is make this look like stone and slabs. And I'm just going to keep this relatively simple. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it in with a pencil, and then when I seal it, that'll seal that pattern in. So I'm going to make it look like bricks on the sides and round the edges, and then probably flagstones in the middle. And then obviously on the other one, what I'll have to do, because I've only got that, is it'll just be this. And what I am going to do on the lion one as well is I'm going to use some more blue stuff to build up some steps going up to it as well. The other thing that I did think about doing, because I just think it'd look a little bit better, is to actually sink this into that, so it sits flush, because I think that'll look a bit better. So I might try and cut a slither out of here and then sit the bed in that, sit the gate in that way. Right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut a little, mark an area around this. And obviously what I need to do is take it down to there. Right, so let me go and cut this out, and then I'll bring you back and I'll just put it in place and let you have a look what it's going to look like. Right, so I've cut this little recess out and pushed my gate into there. So, I'll finish that off so that looks smooth. And then that way, when I put these lines here, that'll leave a bit of a gap. And then part of what I took out of there I've kept, and I'm going to push that in there. Obviously I'll shape it a bit more, and that can be the step going up to it, and then the Buddha on the back. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to draw a stone wall pattern on the sides of this plinth, and I'm going to make them fairly hefty stones. Don't want anything too elaborate. Once they're painted, it will look okay. And it doesn't matter if there's a slight difference in them, you know, because you've got to imagine that these have been put down quite a while, and so they're not going to be perfect, and they won't be shaped identically, so I don't have to worry about that. Right, so as you can see, I've gone all the way around that now, making sure that I maintain the brick pattern. I've still got this bottom row to do, and then it'll be time to do the flagstones on the top. I mean, you could take a lot more care with this if you wanted, but I think this will be good enough once it's painted up. Right, I'll get this one finished, and the next one's going to be a bit different because we're going to have to build that one up with individual stones along here. Right, so as you can see, I've cut some rough bricks, and they are rough, and a suggestion of the slabs that we had on the other one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this one up as if it's been, I don't know, hit by a mortar or something like that. The other thing, as I haven't got the lions, I've cut a couple of plinths, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically do a suggestion of, you know, the lines on the bottom of it. It's not going to be perfect, but at the end of the day, it'll give a suggestion that something was there. Obviously, I'm going to have to dress it up once it's in situ, but at the minute I just need the blocks so I can know what I'm working to. So I'll get these finished off, and then what I'll do on the base of the main plinth, I'll draw in all the bricks and the slabs, and then I'll bring you back and we can start sticking the bricks in place. Right, back in a minute. Right, so I've got the bottom plinth drawn out and put the upper layer of flagstones that are solid for this bit, which is obviously where the Buddha's going to sit. And now what I'm going to do is I've cut out these rough, and they are rough, brick shapes, and I'm going to stick them on the sides to build back up the platform that's not damaged, the part of the platform that's not damaged. So put some glue on the first layer. You see that I've left that end one out. I've left it out because I don't want it to be solid all the way around. And I'm just squeezing these bricks into a bit of a shape, but again, they don't need to be uniform anyway. we go. I'm going to put that out of line because obviously that's the bit that we're going to start to damage. Obviously I'll seal these in place as well afterwards to make it look even more secure. Right, I'm still waiting for the glue to dry on the other things. So what I've started doing, found this new polyfiller that's super light, and it's like mousse when you first touch it. Look. So with it being like that, I'm figuring it will be easier to spread. So what I'm doing is I'm painting it over this, making sure I get into all the cracks. And then obviously this will help towards the stiffening process as well. I can't do the other one at the minute because obviously I need the glue to dry first. But this will help build up a texture as well of the stone. See how it's we're not losing the brick pattern that I've drawn into it, but it's going to give that texture of brick. So I think this might work quite well. It's a bit of an experiment because I've not used this particular stuff like this before, but I just thought it'd be worth a try. Right, I'll put that to one side and we'll let that dry. As I say, when I've got the other ones dried with the glue, I shall do the same thing to that as well. And you know, any of the other parts that are blue foam, just to toughen them up and to give them that rock texture. Right, time for some drying time, I think. Right, so as you can see, these have dried to their bases. Well, almost. That one come loose a bit. So what I've done is I've just used my knife to chamfer them down. I've left the last one just to show you on camera. All I'm doing is following the edge of the wood. Take that side off, turn it round, follow the chamfer of the wood on the other side, keeping your fingers out of the way. That's a lesson learnt. And same on the ends. And that's largely it in shape. If you want to take it down a little bit more, I've thinned some of these out a little bit because I only need a bit to fix into. All I do is just run the knife through it. Doesn't matter whether it's even. And that's it. That's it ready, really. because obviously what we're going to do now is I'm going to coat these. I'm going to have to wait for that one to dry first, so I'll have to bring you back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my plaster with some strong PVA, and I'm literally just going to paint this on to make it look all one piece, and that'll toughen this up a bit, but it'll also make it more uniform and take away any obvious cutting edges that you can see. And what that'll give me is, when it's thoroughly dry, there's just enough here for tall things like the bamboo that, you know, could easily be knocked off. They'll just have that little bit more, you know, grip on the actual terrain base, so they won't be so easy to knock out. And the rest of it will obviously be gluing on the top once we've painted it. Right, I'll wait for that one to dry. As soon as that's done, we'll come back and we'll start that plaster process. Right, well, while we're waiting for a few to dry, there's quite a few that are okay, so I can carry on. So what I've done is I've mixed 3 big spoonsful of this all-purpose filler, which I got from a local DIY store. I think this pot, because it's the cheaper end, was only £3. So, and that'll do for quite a few jobs. And then just put a few good squirts of a good PVA in there. And then what I've done is I've mixed it into like a paste with this spoon. You can see the consistency. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste that onto each of these terrain bases, and that will toughen it up, but it'll also hide all the cutting and make it seem more, you know, one piece. Right, so all I'm going to do is literally just paint this on. Cover up any gaps. Right. And that's pretty much it. Because like I say, the base in itself is going to cover the rest of it. But that'll just make this, you know, a bit tougher as well. Right. I'm going to carry on, get all them done, and when they're dry, I'll bring you back. Right, so the plaster's dry, and what I've done now is I've mixed up some black acrylic paint with Mod Podge, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint all over them just to seal them, and it'll also get rid of all the white before we start then decorating it. And again, it will, you know, help to harden the actual piece and make it more robust as well. So that's the first one done. Right, I'll just get the rest of these done and then I'll bring you back. So now that these have dried, the first thing I want to do is get the base colour down on all this stonework. And I think what I'm going to use for the base colour is some Filthy Cape by Army Painter. I'd normally use my emulsions on this, but it's only a small part, so I don't mind using a bit of proper paint. So I'll leave that to dry. And what I'll do is I'll get the other one done off camera. I may even try an emulsion just to show you the difference. Because I don't use me ordinary paints very often on scenery. I tend to use tester pots. But I wanted this particular colour, so I was happy to go with it. But I'll see if I can mix one up out of my tester pots and get that one done. And then we can compare the two. Right, I'll bring you back in a bit. Right, I'm going to put a base coat down on the plain terrain. And I got this for £1. It's green. I've tried to tame it down a little bit because it's very bright, with a bit of sap green. But I've not put a lot in because I'm just going to go with it as it is, because I will be putting scatter down over it. Trying to give it a good coat, but it doesn't matter if a few bits come through, because like I say, we're going to put lots of scatter down on it and plants and stuff, so I hope this is what friends had got in mind when they were asking for a bit more jungle terrain. I think what, I thought I could do something a bit different when I found those bits on Temu. The Buddha and the gate and the lions, and they were only like 150, 149. Dirt cheap. I mean, I don't think you could print them for that price, could you? I'm not a 3D printer, but I wouldn't have thought you could. Let alone all the mess and that of getting it done. Right, I'll carry on and get the rest of these done. No need to drag you along for that. And when they're dry, we'll come back and we'll have a look at the next stage. Right, so all these painted bits are dry now. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to stick some of my resin pieces in place using the glue gun. Hopefully without too many strands. Which is the downfall of these glue guns, I'm afraid, but I'm just going to put plenty on here because I don't want it coming loose. Alright, and then just put this straight in place. That's it. I'm going to do the same to put the lions in place as well. It doesn't matter if a bit squeezes out, I can sort that later. Main thing is I just want to make sure these don't come off. That's fine. Right, what we'll do now is put the Buddha in place. Right. That's looking okay. Obviously I've got to dress it up a bit yet. Just want to lean this forward a little bit. There we go. They have got a bit of a natural tilt on them, but that's not too bad. Right, so that's got that in place, and as you can see, I've broken this one up, and some of the pieces I want to stick on here, and again I'm going to use the glue gun. Don't you just hate the threads? I want to get all these pieces in place because obviously once I put down the scatter, it'll bed them in properly and they'll look better. Right, I'm going to let that just completely dry, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and make sure I can get all these threads off once it's dry, and then we can look at starting to build it up now. Right, back in a minute. Right, so before I start adding any of the plants or scatter, I need to dry brush these stone parts. So I've squirted a little bit of Brigade Grey, and I'm just wiping off most of it from this tatty old brush. Oh, that's looking a bit better. Right, I'm going to carry on, finish this one off and then get the other one up to the same stage, and then we can start looking at building it up a bit more now with the plants and things. Right, back in a minute. Right, so now we can start adding a few of the plants. Now I don't want to overkill this because I need to be able to get in and around them to put the scatter down at the end. But let's just start and see how we go on. I'm going to super glue some of these in place because again I don't want them coming off, but I will be sealing it along with the scatter at the end anyway. So Let's try this one first. Right, before I go any further putting any more of the shrubs in and the bamboo, I've mixed up some of my own jungle flooring, and what I've put in here is I've put some coffee grounds that I saved, some tea leaves, some green tea leaves, and then what I've done is I've mixed in some forest cover and soil, and I've also crumbled a few dry yellow leaves into it, which are these yellow bits that you can see. And in there as well, where I've started cutting down some of the bamboo, I've cut some of the separate leaves. There's not many of them, but there are a few that are in and among this. And all I'm going to do now is I've mixed some of the tacky glue and PVA and just enough water so I can move it around fairly easy. And I'm just going to paste that all on, particularly on these shrubs that I've put down that have got like the glue base. And what I'll do is, once I've done this, then I'll finish off putting some of the shrubs and some shorter bits of bamboo in some of them as well. Probably through the handling, I might catch a few of these bits as I'm doing it on the first sweep. But I'm trying as best I can to make sure that I cover all of the green base thoroughly. But any bits that come through, I'll go back through them after I've finished fitting the rest of the shrubs and the bamboo, and just top them up, because I'm bound to knock some of it off when I'm handling it again. But I wanted to get it down now while there was still room to get in and among it. Making sure I get it right down to all the edges. As with all things, when they are complete, when I've finished everything, you know, I will be giving it all a thorough soak again anyway, to make sure it's fully bonded. Alright, so I think I've got most of it's covered fairly well. And then all I'm going to do is just shake this on it, catching any that I miss in the tray. Just turn it around. Chuck it on by hand. Make sure I get in and among all of the bamboo. Just shake off any excess. A couple of bits there that I just missed. I'll cover them. And a bit on the edge. And that's it. So that's like the first one covered, and that's what I'm going to do to all of them now. And then when that's dry, I'll bring you back. So what I thought for these two pieces is to have them as like a bit of a ammo and supply dump in a bit of a clearing. So what I did is I super glued a few crates and boxes together and a few bags. And once they were all together as one piece, I gave them a quick spray in the military green and then picked out the bags. And what I've done here is I've got a bit of a, you know, like a hand wipe that I've stained brown to act as a bit of a cover that they've put over it to keep, you know, the damp of the jungle off of it. So I'm going to stick it in place and then put this over it. You'll still be able to see, you know, part of what's under there, but it'll just look, you know, like they've tried to protect it from the environment. And I did a similar one for this one, and I've just put a load of ammo boxes and crates together, and I shall stick that on there. And again, I've only got this little bit left, but I will try and put a bit of a cover over that one as well. Right, I'll use my glue gun to get these two stuck in place, and then I'll paste some glue on the cloth and we'll lay that on. And when it's dry, I'll bring you back. Right, I'm slowly dressing up these with the things that I've got left. And I just thought I'd share this with you. I picked this up from Temu. You know, I have to nip there for, you know, things like this and pick up these small bits really cheap. I picked up this stuff and it's brilliant. I originally had in mind for it if I was going to make a weeping willow tree, because it's like a springy thread, but then it looks like it's got leaves on it. So I was going to use this on some weeping willows when I get round to making them. But once I set out on this job, I thought that looked quite good as like vines hanging on things as well. It's difficult to show it you much closer. Can you see that? It definitely looks leafy. And what I thought is that I might stick a few bits and just hang it on, you know, like it's come off of a tree and fell down on here and started growing round, something like that. Just to give it a bit more dressing, really. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag a gluey brush down the length of each piece that I want to use. I'm not going to put many on it. I don't want to overdo it. And I'll stick it on and then I'll bring it closer up for you to have a look at. Right, so I've stuck the first bits on here. As you can see, I've wrapped it around. I've put glue in various places to try and hold it in place, and that should dry clear anyway. But what I'm also going to do, because this kind of stuff, it will creep across the floor of the jungle as well. So I'm going to add some bits to all of the scenics now. And I've just watered down a little bit of the tacky glue, and I'm just going to put bits of it here and there on all of them so it ties them all together as a set. I just thought I'd show you this because I've come up with a slightly better system for putting this on. And what I've done is I've added a little bit of isopropanol to this glue mix, and then I'm just dropping some on roughly where I want the vine to be. And dropping it in place. Don't want it on top of that plant. And then once I've got it on there, I just drip a little bit more on top. And that's it. Right, I'll get the rest of these up to the same standard, get the ammo dumps one done as well. And I'll take a few photographs and we can have a closer look. Right, so they're there really. Pretty pleased with them. As you can see, some of the vines and that on there have made a bit of a difference to the jungle flooring. So I'm glad I did include them. And, you know, just a few touches here and there to do. Probably give it a buzz with varnish to take down some of the shine. And then I'll be calling it done. Right, I'll hand you back to myself and we'll wind this one up. Right, well, they're finally done. All I've done since you last saw them is I've just gone over and checked a few of them to make sure I've got no obvious loss of the scatter and, you know, sprinkled bits on where I've needed it. Yeah, the other thing that I did do, a bit more of a involved thing, is I did do a bit of a wash on here to introduce an element of green, you know, so that it'd look a little bit more aged and that the damp of the jungle had got to it. I've not overdone it, there's just bits, suggestions of it. And then finally I just gave it a quick blast of matte varnish, and that was just to seal everything in and to take down any, you know, obvious shine that wasn't meant to be there. As you can see, it's all fixed in place. So, I mean, on the whole, I'm pretty pleased with them. I hope it fits the bill for what people had been asking me, you know, for something a bit different. I've tried to introduce these Buddhist bits. Obviously, as you know, I don't do Pacific bolt action or anything. So I'm just basically going on my imagination, really. and some bits and bobs that I picked up from Temu. So they were, you know, reasonable to produce. Bit time consuming on some of the little plants to get them how I wanted them, but it's like everything. I mean, one thing, you know, it dawned on me this time when I was building these. As I was putting them together, I was thinking of better ways I could do it. And I think that's the one thing that you need to do, really, is, you know, be a bit gentle on yourself when you're building. If the first one doesn't come out how you wanted it to, rather than just looking at it as negative, think about the positives that you've got from building it. And, you know, it'll give you ideas. Because, I mean, I think I could improve these, definitely. You know, I wouldn't say that I was totally happy with them. But some of the things I've learnt along the way of ways to do it better, I think if I was revisiting it and, you know, perhaps revisiting it a few times, I think by the end I would get somewhere where I wanted it to be. And probably work more on some of the undergrowth as well and look for more materials to build up the undergrowth of the jungle a bit more. But as working pieces of terrain, I think they'll be fine. So, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found something of use, at least. You know, if you've got to build something like this, you know, learn from my mistakes, the bits that you're not happy with, try and improve on. Anyway, I'm warbling on again. If you have enjoyed it, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And as I always say, you know, please do consider subscribing and drop any suggestions, you know, in the bottom or comments, or if you've got any questions. You know, I do try and answer everybody, so... Right, I'll sign off and I'll see you again soon. Bye.